AJ the Autistic Pony recently put up a questionnaire on his channel about what video idea you'd like to see next. He pitched to his audience a few different video ideas and let them vote on what one they preferred. One of the ones that he brought up was how could a teen or more mature rating benefit the Equestria Girls series. I found this idea interesting and I decided to expand upon it. Feel free to check out his channel and watch his video if he ever puts up this subject, because two different people really can have two different opinions on the same subject. I would compare something like My Little Pony or Equestria Girls to anime and look at what Japanese anime has done when they target a teen or more mature audience. Perhaps one of the best examples of this among anime is from Ayayori Aoshi, a romantic comedy within the harem genre, and one of the ones that balances everything out in the best way possible. And what I mean by that is that it has a good deal of fan service and lots of interesting quirky characters, but it also has a protagonist who's moral and honest and always does the right thing and is overall a nice guy. It has enough of an interesting story going on and a lot of romance and heart and drama and other qualities to it besides just the comedy and the fan service. A show like Love Hina has a little bit more fan service, but not quite as much pure full frontal nudity as Ayayori Aoshi, but it's a little bit less realistic and relies a lot more on awkward humor and slapstick comedy and particular characters suffering physical pain through no fault of their own. All the jokes based around misunderstandings that characters don't give each other a chance to clear up. In a show like Tenchi Muyo, you also have this sort of content, only this time the series is broken up with a lot more sci-fi action, almost of Star Wars quality. Some anime out there such as Green Green, Girls Bravo, Magical Shopping Arcade, Popoton, and many others are purely fan service and nudity and other qualities that make them less plot and more eye candy. And what really makes a mature rated series interesting is the story, the characters, what is being told, the other emotions that are being brought up, the romances, the shipping, the drama, the sci-fi and action and battles, the whether or not the jokes are funny. When all you have is fan service and eye candy, you have something that's fun to watch for a little bit, but after a while it gets boring, uninteresting, and you just sort of get sick of it after a while. And I think this is the trick that any American show should follow when trying to emulate what works and what doesn't work for mature audiences. Let's break it down this way. If you have a 26 episode long season, and you break that season down to a box set of 4 DVDs, I would say each of those 4 DVDs should have one episode where the characters are fully naked for whatever reason. The rest of the episodes should be normal episodes where quite a bit less fan service happens. And every character on the show should be fully nude or in their underwear or a swimsuit or something else on that series. There should be bath scenes and beach scenes and hot spring scenes and a few other of the typical sequences that these types of shows have within them. And when characters do take off their clothes and provide that eye candy and fan service, the longer the scene goes on, the less interesting it becomes. If the scene is too short, it's not worth showing either. You want to hit somewhere between 10 seconds and 5 minutes. Anything less than that isn't enough. Anything more than that can cause the thing to feel like a lot of padding and filler, and it distracts from the story and gets boring, and it becomes more about what you're looking at than what's happening story-wise. You don't even have to show anything when the characters are fully naked either. With some clever prop placement and camera angles, you can hide the sensitive stuff that most audiences aren't always comfortable watching. But those who do want to see that stuff should be rewarded at some point in the series with actually seeing it. But this kind of content, as controversial as it is, can work to tell the story. Certain situations, if they're awkward enough for the main character or embarrassing enough for certain characters, it can lead to a humorous situation and you can get a good laugh out of what they're doing. When you look at how American shows have done the same kind of stuff in shows like Family Guy and American Dad, they seem to get the formula wrong. They seem to throw nudity and violence and cussing at the audience just because they can, or because they're trying to push how offensive they can get before they turn the audience off. It seems like the goal of shows like Family Guy and American Dad is to just be shocking and offensive to everybody and to hope that you maintain popularity in doing so. I call it being mature enough to see the content, but not mature enough to present the content in a way that is mature. It's kind of like being mature and immature simultaneously. You're finally old enough and of age to have the content, but you don't know what to do with it or how to handle it in a mature way, so you're still kind of giggling over it. In order for this kind of content to stop being immature and raunchy, it has to transition into what can be considered art style, and that means it should be contributing to the plot. It shouldn't stick out. It shouldn't try to be noticed. It should simply just be there and blend into the story to the point where it feels natural and you don't even notice it. But we have much more to adult mature content than just things like nudity and sex and violence and cussing. There's also a wide range of other things that you can talk about in a cartoon or other type show when you have a teen or a mature rated audience that you can't do with a kids show, such as dealing with things like pregnancy, dealing not only with romantic relationships, but also same-sex romantic relationships. You can also do content that involves smoking, drugs, and alcohol, farting, vomiting, anything that would be perhaps a little too intense for younger audiences. You can also kick up the violent content and even kill off characters. When it comes to things like alcohol, drugs, and smoking, I like to have them, like I said, blended into the background and contributed to the plot. When they're glorified and hyped up as something awesome that you try when you're an adult and they have a positive image in the story, I don't particularly like that. I like to show that these things have consequences, often negative consequences. I don't like to glorify forms of addiction on a show or romanticize them either. Even with the sexual content, I very much prefer it when the characters are smiling and having a mutual good time, or when they just appear calm and relaxed. When the characters are tied up and chained up and gagged or in extreme physical pain or some kind of emotional trauma, it's not as enjoyable for me, and I don't particularly like that kind of content. I just prefer realism, and I think that's what works in any given situation. Shows like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Legend of Korra got mature content right. They were able to deal with pregnancy, they were able to deal with romance, same-sex romance, they were able to deal with action, they were able to kill characters off, they were able to almost kill off characters and have episodes end on unhappy notes. No kids show would ever dare have a character almost die or actually die, or have an episode end on something then less than a positive note. My Little Pony certainly has never had an unhappy ending, and yet Avatar and Korra have both ended seasons on what I call that Empire Strikes Back note. The heroes are victorious, but they've lost something along the journey, and they have to spend next season recovering from that loss. Even in something like Batman, the loss of a major character can help drive the hero to strike back at the villain and become stronger than ever. And having a character able to be killed off on the series can make emotional connections, cause characters to rethink their motivation, it can cause drama for the characters, and it can cause worry for the audience when they're not sure if a character is going to live or die or whatever. However, if you take things too far and you kill characters off all the time, then the death becomes expected and it no longer has the emotional impact that it used to, because you don't get emotionally attached to new characters because you expect them to die soon. And if a character dies and comes back all the time, then when they die again, it's also not an emotional impact because you know they'll just eventually come back to life.